Regenerated textiles, diverting clothing waste from landfills, a total material revolution. We've all been taught that we should donate our used clothing to a nonprofit or charity so that it can be used again. Imagine a lot of you stuck at home in 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic, chose to do some sort of closet purge, and brought your unwanted clothing to the local Goodwill or Salvation Army. This is perfect. I want to thank you for doing your part to prolong the life of textiles. However, the unfortunate truth is that currently only about 5% of all textiles end up seeing a second use. The rest of it ends up directly in our landfills or dumped overseas to eventually be landfilled or even burned. Textile waste, and clothing production for that matter, is a complex global system where you and I have very little power to control outcomes. There's so little accountability and transparency as materials move from one industrial silo to the next to this linear, wasteful system. At Regenerated Textiles, we want to build community-scale micro-recycling factories about the size of shipping containers that turn landfill-bound textile waste back into the raw materials needed to make new clothing. In a world dominated by inequitable global clothing supply chains, we want to redistribute power and agency back to our local communities and bring jobs and innovation back to Seattle. Our Seattle team of 5 co-founders came together around a shared vision of diverting clothing waste from landfills, albeit from a variety of angles. I come from 15 years of running Seattle clothing brands, local and global supply chains, and green materials design processes. Seeing firsthand how hard it was to come to terms with waste and to strive for sustainable practices inspired me to help address this problem. Lisa's background is in environmental management, recycling, manufacturing, and remediation, so she sees our project through an environmental business lens. Kareem is a finance and technology veteran who is excited to effectively upend the take-make-trash business model that has gotten us into an unsustainable linear economy. Kristen is a frontline operator of an apparel brand that is doing its best to do right by the people it engages with and planet we live on. And Ruth, with a background in community engagement, activism, and systems-level change, can't not see the better world we're trying to create. The 5 of us have a solution. Simply put, we plan to deploy a shipping container-sized recycling factory at the concentration point in textile waste, after charities have sorted through donations and rejected what they can't resell. Our box contains a set of proprietary mechanical and closed-loop organic chemistry processes that turn the end-of-life textile waste into high-quality, price-competitive raw materials to make new clothing, effectively enabling a circular apparel economy. As is, Seattle landfill space is filling fast. According to data, as much as 35 million pounds of textiles went to our landfill in 2018, not including waste exported and dumped overseas. There's so much value lost in landfilled clothing. Our technology is designed to locally transform trash into fiber, and then on into thread, fabric, and eventually into products sold to the public, all in collaboration and partnership with an ecosystem of over 250 Seattle region companies in the apparel and textile manufacturing industry. I'd like to dive deeper though. It's not just how much waste our box will divert and the things we'll make out of it. It's what this model ultimately unlocks for the environment and for our communities as it dismantles a historically siloed, inaccessible, and unsustainable apparel industry. The cool thing is that not only are people like you donating your used clothing, but you are also demanding sustainable products, over 70% more in 2020 than you did in 2016. The market for sustainable materials is ripe. Just the materials we plan to produce in our shipping containers have a 71% carbon savings compared to virgin material, and producing them locally saves over 94% of the transportation footprint. You're also demanding local products, and this is more powerful than you think. Imported goods leave more than 2/3 of the value of that product outside of our community. But if we buy a local shirt for $20 made from local materials by local artisans, that translates to over $35 in value from the multiplier effect of money and jobs staying here in Seattle. And if we take that same $20 t-shirt at the end of its life and regenerate it into new materials in our box right here in Seattle, that trickle-down economic cycle repeats and repeats. Less landfill waste, more sustainable business, less carbon emissions, and more power in the hands of local creators. This means local employment opportunities. This means funding for local government infrastructure, and this means pride in our city. This is the circular economy in action, and this is what we're working towards at Regenerated Textiles.